Mhm. All right, wonderful. Hello, everybody out there on all the different channels, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. Happy to have you here, either live or listening to this recording. I really appreciate you and appreciate the time you take to, join me in my musings about career and work and the divine. So that's kind of the intersection I am in. Um, and every week, almost always 1 o'clock Wednesday Central Time, I come to you with some sort of tale. And today, what I want to talk about is the hidden cost of being the office superstar. So, um, even if you don't see yourself that way, I know you're going to relate to this story, or you may totally see yourself that way certainly at different points in your career. So, but before I get into the specifics about the hidden cost, I'm going to start with a Lori story, and it totally relates. I swear it does. But it's the thing, there's always something that happens. I don't know why I'm still surprised about this, but there's always something that happens in my personal life that somehow connects to something a client says or a problem that a client's been trying to solve. And the wisdom from one area is it's a transferable skill-ish. It transfers into career. So if there's a solution, if you're having a problem at work, look into the whole point is if you're having a problem at work with something, a person, a project, a career, like blocker, look into your personal life and see if it might have some advice for you. That little separation, now I'm talking about the divine stuff, right? That little separation where you're not just, thinking about the work problem from a work perspective, but you take it into and you tell your brain, how might, I have solved this problem already in my personal life, or show me how it might get solved through an example from my personal life. And I think that happens more than we realize. And it happened for me. So here's the story. I've had problems with my gut for years. And I for the longest time I thought it was allergies because I won't go into the story of the Cubs game and the bag of peanuts, but that's really where it started, probably in the like I think it was 2009 actually. And but I had a reaction and did a blood test with my doctor and determined, and it showed that I was allergic to peanuts, cow's milk specifically, but dairy in general, egg whites, and wheat. So because the reaction was so awful and the concern that it might progress, I removed all of those items pretty much from my list. So started eating gluten-free pastas and breads and cheeseless pizzas. I did not like the I don't know what the non-dairy cheeses. So I'd rather do cheeseless, to tell you the truth. Um, I hadn't had I sort of got have not had a deviled egg in years. Omelets were, no more. So, when you think about egg whites and wheat and, dairy, like there's a lot of changes that I had to put in place. Fine, I did it. And I was very good for a long time, for many years, but I was still having symptoms. And so my thought was I must be allergic to more than I know. I must be, I remember thinking, please don't make me allergic to oatmeal. Please don't make me allergic to cashews. And so, but I thought I'm having reactions, I'm having not only stomach cramping, but runny nose, itchy skin, rashes sometimes, welts sometimes, headaches. It's just having all of these symptoms after I was eating, and it wasn't really specific food that would that would make it happen. It just would happen. And so I decided like 2 months ago now. So I went a long time, sort of, following a particular eating plan and still I was feeling better. I was definitely feeling better. And I would say my symptoms were fewer and far between. Uh, but I was still having symptoms. So eventually I just thought, you know what? I just want to go. Plus my stomach cramping and stuff was worse. So, so I thought, you know what? I'm going to go to an allergist and I'm going to, see what else might be happening. So I had 80 different scratch tests. So if you've ever had scratch tests, I hadn't. So I was like, sure, let's do all of these, including peanuts and cow's milk. And I did the ones that the blood test had showed up as me being allergic to. And I did, 75 other things. And the results came in, and I am allergic to nothing. To nothing, except perhaps a very small allergy to celery, which I do not eat a ton of. I like it okay, but I don't eat a ton of it. And I was like gobsmacked. I'm like, what the heck? And the allergist is like, those blood tests will give you false positives. That was kind of it, but she didn't give me any solutions to, if I wasn't allergic to all of these things, why was I still having these symptoms? And so scheduled an appointment with a GI doctor. But in the meantime, I talked to my other friend, my other doctor, WebMD, and ChatGPT, and started, feeding my symptoms in. And in the process, because you know how this works, social media somehow through chat or something must have discovered that I'm investigating, GI issue problems and stuff. And into my feed comes this woman, Dr. Meg Mill. And I go, and she has a little test that you take. And, or maybe it was just like showed you symptoms or something like that of a histamine intolerance, which I had never heard of before. Well, that's not exactly true, but never heard of it in this particular case. So this histamine intolerance, all of the symptoms, I was like, I mean, she might have had 15 symptoms listed, and I'm like, yep, 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 yep. And I thought, I don't know what this is, but what does a histamine intolerance diet look like? So about 3 weeks ago, I started to look at the histamine diet, which is crazy restrictive. It's basically, fresh, it's vegetable, it's healthy vegetables and fruits, but not all things. No citrus, for example. It's fresh or fresh frozen meats and fish, no smoked fish or meats, but fresh or fresh frozen meats and fish. And then there's some other things that are on the diet. It was a pretty long list of what I could eat. And then there was ones that you want to very moderately eat, and then ones that you really want to completely avoid. So I thought, all right, I'm going to go about doing this. But if I'm going to be eating more fresh fish and fresh frozen fish, I want some histamine acceptable sauces to go on it. So I started to look for different sauces and combine different ingredients to come up with these different sauces to put on my fish and my chicken and things like that. And in the process of making the sauces, which, if you cook things, you let them simmer on low for a longer period of time. All of those ingredients start to come together and they reveal, something different than each individual ingredient, would create, of course. And so, but also through the simmering process, they just start to really blend in such a nice way that it's all yummy, right? It's all yummy. So I was, that's what was happening in my world when a client came to me, and she's like, oh, guess what? Great news. My boss just sent me an email, let me know that I'm going to be getting a new team. And she said, I already managed the most teams of anyone in the organization. How is this good news for me? And I thought, ooh, she needs the simmer strategy. Here's the thing. She's a superstar. They can count on her, right? And so no surprise that when they have some sort of issue, it's her that's going to be the first person they think about. And so, if you're thinking about yourself and like, your version of being an office superstar might be that you're the person that everyone calls on when something's on fire, or that you catch things ahead of time that other people are missing and, call attention to it. You solve problems before they turn into crises. And you also might have a little bit of this, because you're count onable, you're so count onable, but you also feel good about being that person. And so you might also create your own monster in a way, the superstar monster. But today, I really want to focus on, being that person that it can, somewhere along the way, the fact that you have those great qualities, those superstar qualities, turns into the reason that you keep getting piled on at work, right? People keep, just go ask Lori. Oh, Lori will know how to figure this out. Let's see if Lori can help out on this thing. Or, hey, guess what, Lori? We're going to give you a new team because we know you manage teams so darn well, and that you bring your projects across the finish line always on time and under budget. We want to give you this team too. And you can see why my client was like pissed off, right? She's like, no, this is not okay. But she also knew she couldn't just say, no, this is not okay. I talked about this in a previous blog, how sometimes just that can really backfire on you. Setting that boundary you might feel like you're setting some sort of a boundary, and it can come back and backfire on you in your career advancement, for example. But she, also, didn't want to appear difficult, right? It didn't want to, you don't want to be a person that isn't, on the team, right? And it's also not about, it just, you want to, you don't want to, you don't want things to backfire on you, and you don't want to, keep taking on more than, hello burnout, right? Keep taking on more than really is yours to take on. And besides the fact that other people are being, having missed opportunities because they're not stretching themselves in the way, the superstar power that they might have sitting inside of them. So, so your reward for excellence is becoming another project or another team or another crisis to solve, and another late night at the office, which keeps you from friends and family and the cost that's going on there. So I suggested to my client, I was thinking about the sauce I had made and the simmering of the ingredients. And I said, you know what you need? You need a simmer strategy. And so, of course, her eyebrows are like, what's a simmer strategy? And I'm like, well, it's not, about saying no or being difficult in any sort of way. And it's certainly not about lowering your standards and saying like, I'll take on the team, but I won't be able to do things as well as I've done in the past, because we don't want that to happen, right? But it's about putting together ingredients and letting them simmer. And so what you're really starting to do is kind of creating space between the request and your response, so that something new there's some time in there where things are simmering, so that something new can emerge, something completely different and better, right? And when I was talking to her, because of course I got to tell the story, I'm talking to her about it, and I'm like, the ingredients in this case are, in the simmer strategy, are the pause to create that space and the ask. It's really important to ask some clarifying questions. That's not no. That's not defensive. That's not, in any way going to take the shine of your superstarness. So you're just asking clarifying questions. And so the simmer strategy, two steps, simple steps. First, take that beat. Pause, let things simmer, let things, give yourself some simmer space, and then add those ingredients in, which are clarifying questions. And in her case, using the example of, hey, guess what? You're being blessed with a new team because you're going to love this. We just know it. So in that example, the questions that she came back with were things like, okay, great. I just need to get some further information about this new team. How many people are on the team? What exact work is this team responsible for? Does the support and test teams come with this development team? And does it also involve having to support new additional customers? And in those questions and that pause that she put between the ask and the response, her boss started to have to answer these questions, and in that process recognized that this wasn't a good idea and did not end up passing on that team to my client, came up with a different way to manage that team and figure that out without my client ever having to do anything else after those clarifying questions. It gave her boss the opportunity to see the full picture. And often when someone sees the full picture, then they start to see also the consequences that might come out of that, and also perhaps that there might be other solutions besides the like first thing that came to mind, which is often the superstar. Because like her boss knows she can hand that off to her, knows that this count-onable person, this person that always makes her look good will continue to do that, right? But it isn't necessarily the best solution overall. And that's what came out of the simmer strategy. So if you are the office superstar, remember that one of your greatest career skills that you can develop as you step into your superstardom is that recognizing that doing more because you can is not necessarily the best idea, I guess I would say. So it's your greatest skill isn't doing more just because you can, right? It's actually learning to pause, let those ingredients, those questions, and the spicy ingredients, let them simmer before you respond, because it isn't just because you can do more that you should do more. As a superstar, your greater skill or the greater thing to develop is this idea that you don't have to respond immediately, that superstars let things simmer. That's really what it is. Superstars let things simmer. So that's what I have to chit chat about at you today. Hopefully it perks up some ideas for yourself, or if you're managing a team, you can be thinking about the superstars on your team and making sure that that because they are your superstars, that you don't keep piling on and creating a situation where your superstar gets burnt out or exits the company or becomes more disengaged. You don't want that. Like there's that balance between challenging and growing a superstar and not burning them out and overloading. So that's one way to look at what I talked about today. And if you are the office superstar, just start to put that beat in place, ask more clarifying questions, to surface other potential solutions that might work for everyone even better. So that's it for today. As always, follow my QR code, DM me, let's schedule a call, sign up for the blog out on the website, inspiretech.com. We'd love to have you as part of our community and looking at careers and work cultures differently, where we are creating just an amazing, bountiful, nourishing place to be, I guess is what I'll say. Just a nourishing career for ourselves, and that feels like tastes just like bon appetit, right? So thanks so much, and see you next week. If you're on our email list through our blog, you'll get a reminder on Monday with the time in case there's a shift. And again, do not hesitate to reach out and connect with me. Refer me. I'm always looking for referrals of women in tech and tech adjacent careers who are at that career crossroads and ready for something different. So talk to you soon.